Hello, my friend, and welcome. Today, we're diving into something that might seem simple on the surface, yet it has the power to open doors, build friendships, and even change your life. We're talking about small talk, those short, seemingly casual conversations that happen before a meeting starts, at a cafe, on a bus, or when you meet someone new. You might think small talk is just about chatting about the weather or saying, "How are you?" But it's actually something much deeper. It's the art of connection. It's the bridge between strangers and meaningful communication. And mastering it, especially in English, can truly boost your social fluency and confidence. Now, maybe you've been in this situation before. You meet someone new, they smile and say, "Hi, how's your day going?" And suddenly your brain freezes. You think, what should I say? Should I just say fine? Should I ask them something? What if I sound awkward? Don't worry, everyone has felt that way at some point, even native speakers. But here's the secret: small talk isn't about being perfect or speaking fast. It's about connection. It's about showing curiosity, warmth, and interest in others, and when you understand how it works, you'll see that anyone can do it. In this story, you'll follow a journey, one that many English learners experience. You'll meet characters, feel their hesitation and transformation, and see how small talk can reshape not just your conversations but your confidence in life. We'll explore what makes small talk feel natural, what topics to use, and how to go beyond just, "Hi, how are you?" to build genuine rapport with others. Throughout this journey, we'll uncover how mastering small talk in English isn't just about memorizing phrases or repeating polite lines. It's about mindset. The belief that every conversation is an opportunity. You'll learn how to handle silence without fear, how to keep a chat flowing naturally, how to ask better questions, and how to listen in a way that makes people want to talk to you. Imagine walking into a room full of people, maybe a networking event, or a party, or even just a class full of strangers. At first, your heart beats faster. You look around, unsure of who to talk to. But then, something changes. You start to notice little things. Someone's holding a book you've read, someone's wearing a shirt from your favorite city, someone just smiled at you. You take a breath, smile back, and say, "Hey, I love that book. Have you read others by the same author?" Suddenly, the ice breaks. You're not just strangers anymore. You've started a conversation that could lead anywhere, a friendship, a collaboration, or just a pleasant moment. That's the beauty of small talk. In this series, you'll see how one person, let's call her Emma, learns to master small talk step by step. She's an ordinary learner like you, someone who once avoided conversations because she felt shy or didn't know what to say. But through experiences, practice, and a change in perspective, she discovers that small talk isn't small at all. It's a powerful tool for growth, opportunity, and confidence. We'll follow Emma as she navigates her first day in a new English-speaking city, the nerves, the first awkward moments, and the little victories that come from daring to speak up. You'll see her meet people from different backgrounds, from baristas and neighbors to classmates and coworkers. Each conversation will teach her something new about connection, culture, and language. By the end of this story, you won't just know how to make small talk, you'll feel it. You'll understand its rhythm, its heart, and how to make every short exchange feel natural and meaningful. Because being fluent in English isn't just about grammar or vocabulary, it's about presence, confidence, and empathy. So, as you listen to this story, imagine you're walking alongside Emma. Hear her thoughts, feel her nerves, and celebrate her progress. Think about your own moments of hesitation and how you can turn them into moments of courage. Because mastering small talk isn't about changing who you are, it's about unlocking the version of you that's already friendly, curious, and confident inside. Over the next parts, we'll go on a journey together, from fear to fluency, from silence to connection. We'll explore real-life examples, genuine emotions, and practical lessons you can apply right away. So take a deep breath, relax your shoulders, and get ready to step into the world of small talk, not as a skill to memorize, but as a way to truly connect with people in English. Because in the end, the best conversations don't start with perfect grammar, they start with a smile. The city was still waking up when Emma stepped outside her small apartment, clutching a paper cup of coffee that was already cooling in her hands. The air was crisp, filled with the distant hum of buses and the rhythmic footsteps of people heading somewhere with purpose. It was her first week in London, a dream she'd carried for years, but right now, it didn't feel like a dream. It felt like standing in the middle of a world that was moving too fast for her to catch up. She had learned English for years. She could read novels, understand podcasts, even write long essays at university. But the moment someone said, "Hi, how's it going?" her mind would go blank. Her heart would race, and she'd give the same short, lifeless answers. "Good. You." Then silence. The conversation would die before it began, and she'd walk away replaying the moment again and again in her head, wondering what she could have said differently. That morning, she promised herself something small but powerful. Today, she would start at least one real conversation in English. Not just answer someone's question. Not just nod and smile. She would talk. She didn't know how or when it would happen, but she knew she had to try. As she walked toward the cafe near her office, she rehearsed sentences in her head like lines from a play. Maybe I could say something about the weather. No, everyone says that. What if I ask the barista how his day is going? But what if he doesn't understand me? What if I sound weird? Her thoughts tangled, her steps slowed, and she almost turned back. But then she remembered why she came here, not just to live in a new country, but to connect. Inside the cafe, the smell of roasted coffee beans and fresh croissants filled the air. The barista, a young man with kind eyes and tattoos on his arm, greeted her with a cheerful, "Morning! What can I get you?" Her throat tightened. Words stuck. Cappuccino, please," she managed. He smiled. "Sure thing. You've got an accent. Where are you from?" That one question made her freeze for a heartbeat. She could have just answered, "Ukraine," and smiled politely. That's what she usually did. But this time, she remembered her promise. One real conversation. "I'm from Ukraine," she said, then took a small leap. "I just moved here last week. Still getting used to, the rain." He laughed lightly. "Yeah, London weather's an adventure. It rains even when the forecast says sunshine." Something in her relaxed. The tone was easy, friendly, real. "Back home, we joke that if you don't like the weather, just wait 5 minutes, it'll change. But here it just stays." He chuckled, handed her the cup, and said, "That's true. You'll get used to it. Welcome to London, by the way." "Thanks," she replied, smiling for real this time. It was short. It was simple. But for her, it was victory. As she left the cafe, she felt something she hadn't felt all week, warmth that had nothing to do with the coffee in her hands. She'd done it. A small conversation, a shared laugh, a moment of connection. No awkward silence, no panic, no overthinking afterward. It wasn't perfect English, but it was alive. On her way to the office, she thought about how different that tiny exchange felt compared to her usual mornings. She realized that small talk wasn't about impressing someone with her vocabulary. It was about noticing small details, responding naturally, and letting curiosity lead the way. Later that day, during her lunch break, she sat on a park bench with her sandwich, watching people around her chatting easily. She saw 2 coworkers laughing over something on a phone, a group of tourists asking for directions, and an elderly man feeding pigeons while humming quietly. Everyone seemed to belong somewhere. She wanted that too, not just to be in the city, but to be part of it. She took out her phone, opened her English learning notes, and wrote a few new goals. Start one small talk conversation every day. Don't aim for perfection, aim for connection. Ask questions that make people smile. That night, she thought back to the barista. How natural it had felt once she'd stopped worrying about saying the right thing. Maybe tomorrow, she could talk to someone at work. Maybe she could ask a coworker if they liked the city, or if they had recommendations for a good lunch spot. Small talk, she realized, wasn't small at all. It was the beginning of something much bigger, belonging. The next morning, she'd wake up nervous again. But now, she knew that nervousness wasn't her enemy. It was proof she cared. And with each little hello, each comment about the weather, each shared laugh, she was one step closer to becoming not just fluent in English, but fluent in connection. And that was the real goal all along. The next day arrived with soft clouds hanging low over the city, the kind of morning where the air smelled of rain and fresh asphalt. Emma walked briskly through the streets, umbrella in one hand, thoughts swirling in her mind. The memory of yesterday's cafe conversation still gave her a spark of confidence. It wasn't much, but it was something real, proof that she could talk to someone and not freeze. Today, she wanted to take the next step. Her office was a modern glass building with big windows overlooking the Thames. Inside, everything was neat and polished: open desks, quiet keyboards, the hum of printers, the murmur of polite conversations. Emma worked as a marketing assistant, helping with reports and social media updates. Most of her coworkers were friendly, but in her first week, she'd kept to herself, too shy to join in their chatter. They often gathered near the kitchen, laughing about TV shows or weekend plans, speaking fast, words melting together in ways her textbook English couldn't keep up with. By noon, the smell of warm food filled the small break room. Her stomach growled, but her nerves grew louder. A group of coworkers had gathered at the round table: Sarah, with her confident laugh, Ben, who always had a joke, and Claire, who loved asking questions. Emma hesitated at the doorway, lunchbox in hand. She could sit at her desk, eat alone as usual, or she could join them. Her heart thumped. Come on, Emma. One conversation. Just like with the barista. She took a slow breath and walked toward the table. Mind if I sit here? She asked softly. Sarah smiled. Of course, join us. You're Emma, right? The new marketing assistant? Yes, she said, feeling her face warm. Just started last week. Ben grinned. Welcome to the chaos. Don't worry, we're all harmless, most of the time. Everyone laughed, and Emma smiled, though she wasn't sure what to say next. They continued chatting, words flowing easily between them. The conversation jumped from movies to weekend plans to the company's new campaign. Emma listened, catching bits and pieces. She understood most of the words, but her brain was a few seconds behind, translating, organizing, trying to keep up. She wanted to join in, but every time she thought of something to say, the moment moved on. Then Claire turned to her. So, Emma, what do you think about living in London so far? Big change, huh? The spotlight feeling hit again. Every eye turned to her. She could have just said, It's nice, and smiled. But she remembered her promise: don't aim for perfection, aim for connection. It's definitely different, she said, choosing her words carefully. People here love talking about the weather. Back home, we only talk about it when it's really bad. Ben laughed. Oh yeah, that's totally true. We're obsessed. It's our national small talk topic. That made her laugh too, a genuine one this time. Yes. It's like, every day someone says, it might rain later, and I think it already is. Everyone chuckled, and just like that, she wasn't an outsider anymore. The conversation moved on. Sarah asked if anyone had weekend plans, Ben started teasing her about her coffee addiction, and Claire complained about the trains. It wasn't deep, it wasn't complicated, but it felt real. Emma even found herself jumping in once or twice, asking questions, laughing at jokes she actually understood. When lunch ended, everyone said goodbye and returned to work. Emma sat back at her desk with a quiet smile. She hadn't said much, but she'd been part of something. That night, she replayed the moment in her mind. The way the conversation had flowed like a river, fast, spontaneous, unpredictable, and how she'd managed to stay afloat. She realized that small talk wasn't just about speaking, it was about listening. When she stopped worrying about grammar and focused on what people were saying, she found her rhythm. Over the next few days, she practiced small talk in tiny doses. Saying, "Morning," to the receptionist, complimenting Claire's scarf, asking Ben where to find the best sandwich near the office. Every time she spoke, it became a little easier. The awkward pauses were shorter, her confidence stronger. Still, sometimes she made mistakes, using the wrong tense, forgetting a word, mispronouncing something, and her cheeks would flush red. But what surprised her was how little people cared. They didn't laugh. They didn't correct her harshly. They just kept talking, like it didn't matter. Because really it didn't. She began to see that small talk was like a dance. You didn't have to know every step perfectly, you just had to move with the rhythm. One rainy afternoon, as she left the office, Ben called out, "Hey Emma, we're all going to grab dinner after work. Want to join?" Her heart skipped. A month ago, she might have said no, too nervous to sit through another long English conversation. But now she smiled. "I'd love to." And as she walked with them toward the little restaurant around the corner, listening to the sound of their laughter mixing with the rain, she realized that something had shifted inside her. Small talk wasn't just helping her speak English better, it was helping her belong. The next part of her journey would teach her how to keep conversations going, how to move past those first few lines and turn small talk into real connection. By the end of her second week, Emma began to notice something strange. The city didn't feel as cold anymore. It wasn't that the weather had changed. London was still cloudy, still drizzling every other hour. But she was different. When people spoke to her now, she didn't panic. She didn't stare at the floor, counting seconds until silence. Instead, she found herself listening, really listening, and replying with curiosity. Still, she knew there was another challenge waiting for her. Starting small talk was one thing, keeping it alive was another. The barista and her coworkers were friendly, but when the conversation reached that awkward pause, that invisible line where most small talks die, she never knew what to do next. Should she ask another question? Should she share a story? How could she make the chat feel natural instead of forced? The opportunity to learn came one Friday evening. Emma had joined her coworkers for dinner at a cozy restaurant tucked between narrow London streets. The room was warm and full of chatter, glasses clinking, music humming softly in the background. She sat between Claire and Ben, feeling that same mix of excitement and nervous energy. As they waited for their food, Ben leaned back in his chair and asked, "So, Emma, what do people usually do for fun in Ukraine? Like weekends and stuff?" She smiled, grateful for the question. "It depends. In summer, people go to the river or countryside. We like barbecues, music, sitting outside with friends. It's simple but nice." Claire nodded. "That sounds amazing. Do you miss it?" Emma hesitated for a moment. This was her chance, the line between polite small talk and genuine connection. She took a breath. "Yes, sometimes. Especially summer nights. The smell of grilled food, my friends laughing. I miss the feeling of everyone being together. But I like it here too. There's always something happening, some energy in the air." Claire smiled softly. "I get that. I lived abroad once. You start missing small things, like sounds or smells. Not just people." Something shifted at the table. The conversation slowed, deepened. It wasn't just small talk anymore, it was real. Emma noticed how it had happened. It started with a simple question about weekends, and by sharing something personal, not too much, just a feeling, the chat had opened a door. As the evening went on, she practiced more of this. When someone mentioned a TV show, she didn't just say, "I haven't seen it." Instead, she asked, "Is it funny or serious? Would you recommend it for someone new to British humor?" When Ben complained about the trains, she joked, "I think London trains have their own secret schedule. It's just not for humans." People laughed, and the talk kept flowing. On her way home that night, she thought about what she'd learned. Small talk was like playing catch. You throw something out, they catch it, throw it back, and it keeps going. But if you just give one-word answers, the ball drops. The trick was to share and ask, a rhythm of give and take. Over the next days, Emma started to test this rhythm in her daily life. At the grocery store, when the cashier said, "Busy day?" She didn't just nod. She smiled and said, "A little. But at least it's almost the weekend. Do you get Sundays off?" The cashier smiled back, and for a few seconds, it felt like two humans sharing a small, simple connection. She began to see that English wasn't just a language for textbooks. It was a bridge for empathy. You didn't need perfect grammar to make someone smile. You just needed to care enough to ask. Her confidence grew quietly, like sunlight creeping into a room through the blinds. She noticed that people were more open than she'd imagined. They wanted to talk, to share, to laugh. They just needed someone to start. One rainy afternoon, as she was walking through the park, she saw an elderly woman struggling with an umbrella that had flipped inside out. Without thinking, Emma rushed to help. "Oh, let me! These things never cooperate," she said, holding the handle steady while the woman fixed it. The woman laughed. "You're right, dear. I think the wind here has a sense of humor." Emma chuckled. "Maybe it just likes testing our patience." They ended up walking a few steps together, chatting about the unpredictable weather, about London's parks, about how coffee shops were always full no matter the hour. When they parted ways, the woman smiled warmly. "You have a lovely way with words," she said. Emma blushed. "Thank you. I'm still learning." But inside she knew she'd learned something far more important than words. She'd learned how to connect. Later that night, as she sat by her window, watching the rain trace paths down the glass, she thought about how far she'd come. Just weeks ago, even saying hello had felt terrifying. Now, she could start a conversation, keep it alive, and even leave someone smiling. Still, she knew there were more lessons ahead. Small talk could open doors, but sometimes, it could also lead to misunderstandings, awkward pauses, or cultural differences she didn't yet understand. And soon she'd face her first test, a conversation that didn't go as planned. One that would remind her that mastering small talk isn't about avoiding mistakes, but about learning how to recover from them with grace. The following week started with the soft chill of an English spring morning. Emma had begun to enjoy the rhythm of her new life, greeting the barista each day with a smile, chatting briefly with coworkers, and even striking up small conversations with strangers on the bus. Her confidence was blooming quietly, one conversation at a time. But confidence, she was learning, isn't a straight line. Some days you feel unstoppable, and some days, one awkward silence can make you question everything again. It happened on a Tuesday, at the office kitchen. She was making tea when Tom, one of the senior team members, walked in. He was friendly but busy, the kind of person who always seemed half in a conversation and half in his next meeting. He smiled politely. "Morning, Emma. How are things?" Emma turned, ready to practice what she'd learned. "Morning, Tom. I'm good, thank you. Just trying this new tea, it smells nice." He nodded, opening the fridge. "Ah, tea, the fuel of this office." She laughed lightly. "Yes, I'm starting to understand that. I think people here drink more tea than water." "Absolutely," he said, chuckling. Then silence. The kind that stretches a little too long. Tom stirred his coffee, she held her cup, and suddenly the air felt heavier. Emma's mind raced. Say something, say anything. But all the ideas that flashed through her brain vanished just as quickly. She looked at the sugar jar, the spoon, the steam rising from her cup, trying to find inspiration. Finally, she blurted out, "So, do you like tea?" The words hung awkwardly between them. Tom looked up, slightly confused but polite. Yeah, I suppose so." He smiled faintly, then excused himself with a quick, "Better run to a meeting," and left. The door closed, and Emma's cheeks burned. She sighed, whispering to herself, "Nice one, Emma. Great question, do you like tea? Brilliant." For the rest of the morning, she couldn't stop thinking about it. The embarrassment lingered like an echo. Why was that so awkward? She wondered. She just wanted to keep the conversation going, but it had sounded forced, unnatural. During lunch, she sat with Claire and decided to confess. "I think I failed at small talk today." she said with a nervous laugh. Claire raised an eyebrow. Failed? How? I tried to talk to Tom in the kitchen. It started fine, then I asked if he liked tea. It was so awkward. He probably thinks I'm weird. Claire chuckled softly. Oh, Emma. Don't worry, we all do that. Honestly, everyone has small talk moments that fall flat. The trick isn't to avoid them, it's to move on naturally. Emma frowned. But how? What do you say when there's nothing to say? Simple, Claire said. You acknowledge the silence instead of fighting it. You can laugh about it, or just shift the topic smoothly. Like, anyway, I should let you get back to work, or by the way, have you seen the new project update? Small talk doesn't have to be perfect, it just needs to feel human. That advice stuck in Emma's head. Small talk wasn't a performance, it was a dance. And sometimes you miss a step. That didn't mean the dance was over. The next day, fate gave her a second chance. She bumped into Tom again at the elevator. Her first instinct was to avoid eye contact, but then she remembered Claire's words. She smiled. Hi, Tom. I hope your meeting yesterday wasn't as long as it sounded. He laughed. Oh, it was. 3 hours of pure excitement about budget spreadsheets. Emma grinned. Wow, sounds thrilling. I can see why you needed that coffee. He laughed again, this time more naturally. Exactly. You're learning how this office works already. As the elevator doors opened, Emma realized something important. One awkward moment didn't define her ability to connect. People forgot small awkwardnesses faster than she did. What mattered was the next moment, the courage to try again. That evening, as she walked home under a pale orange sunset, she replayed both moments in her mind, the silence and the recovery. She realized that fluency wasn't just about speaking smoothly. It was about staying calm when things weren't smooth. About being okay with imperfection. At home, she made a list in her notebook titled, What I Learned from Awkward Conversations. Silence isn't failure, it's space. Acknowledging the moment can make it natural. People don't remember awkwardness as much as you do. Keep the humor, it lightens everything. As she looked at the list, she smiled to herself. Maybe awkward moments weren't mistakes. Maybe they were just part of learning to connect like a native, to move with the flow, to laugh at herself, to recover with grace. Over the next week, she practiced this attitude everywhere, in meetings, at shops, even while waiting for the bus. If a conversation fizzled, she didn't overthink it. She simply smiled and said something light, like, Anyway, I'd better not keep you. Or, I never know how to end these chats, do you? People usually laughed, and the tension vanished. Bit by bit, Emma stopped fearing silence. Instead, she started seeing it as part of the music of conversation, the pause before the next note. And soon, she'd learn another powerful truth, that small talk isn't just about speaking, it's about listening deeply. Because the secret to connecting with others often lies not in what you say, but in how you hear. Let's face it, one of the biggest reasons people avoid small talk isn't because they dislike others. It's because they fear that terrible, unbearable moment of silence. You know the one, when the conversation runs dry, both of you stare into space, and your mind races, desperately trying to find something, anything to say. But here's the truth, awkward moments aren't failures. They're natural pauses in human interaction. And learning how to handle them with grace is a superpower that transforms your confidence in small talk forever. First, understand this, silence isn't the enemy. Sometimes, it's just a natural breath between ideas. Confident people don't panic during silences, they use them. Instead of rushing to fill every gap, they smile, maintain comfortable eye contact, and allow the moment to breathe. That short pause often gives your conversation partner a chance to gather their thoughts and continue. Ironically, when you stop fearing silence, you become more relaxed, and that calmness invites others to open up more easily. Still, let's be honest, sometimes silence is awkward. Maybe you've just met someone at a networking event, and after exchanging names and jobs, the conversation suddenly hits a wall. What now? The best move is to have a few safety questions ready, light, open-ended topics that can restart the flow. Ask about something you both can see or share. This event has a great atmosphere, doesn't it? Or, how did you first get into this field? These simple phrases act like jumpstart cables for a stalled conversation. Another secret is to shift your mindset. Don't see small talk as a performance where you must impress others. See it as a shared experience. Awkwardness only grows when you focus too much on yourself, worrying about what to say, how you look, or whether the other person likes you. But when your attention moves outward toward them, their interests, their reactions, the pressure drops. Small talk isn't about being perfect. It's about being present. Humor also works wonders in breaking tension. You don't need to tell jokes, just show lightheartedness. If there's a lull, you can laugh gently and say something like, "I guess we just ran out of words for a second." Or, "I always have this talent for awkward pauses." It signals that you're comfortable enough to laugh at the moment instead of fearing it. That honesty can turn discomfort into connection. People don't remember perfection, they remember authenticity. One more thing to remember: awkward moments happen to everyone, even the most socially skilled people. The difference is how they recover. Instead of withdrawing, they pivot. For instance, if your last question didn't land, you can smoothly redirect. "Anyway, that reminds me, have you ever tried?" Or, "That's interesting, by the way, what do you think about?" The key is movement. Don't let the conversation freeze. Give it a new direction, even if it's small. A great mental trick is to treat small talk like surfing waves. Some moments will be high, full of energy and connection, while others will flatten out. You can't control the ocean, but you can learn to ride it. When you accept that conversations naturally rise and fall, you stop chasing perfection and start flowing with the rhythm. And here's something most people don't realize: the fear of awkwardness often fades with exposure. The more you engage in small talk, the more you discover that awkward situations rarely end badly. People forget them, move on, or even find them endearing. What once made you panic becomes something you can laugh about later. So next time you find yourself in that quiet moment, instead of retreating, breathe, smile, and remember, this is not a failure. It's just a beat in the rhythm of human connection. Every pause is an invitation to listen, to ask, to share again. Mastering small talk isn't about eliminating awkwardness, it's about becoming comfortable with it. If you've ever wondered why some people seem to connect instantly with anyone they meet, the secret isn't in their words alone. It's in their ability to read the room. Mastering small talk means learning how to sense the energy, mood, and personality of the person in front of you, and then adjusting your tone, pace, and topics to match it. It's not manipulation, it's emotional intelligence in motion. The best conversationalists aren't the loudest or funniest. They're the ones who listen deeply, observe closely, and adapt naturally. Let's start with something simple: energy matching. Every person gives off a certain social temperature. Some people are warm and expressive, using their hands when they talk, smiling easily. Others are calm, reserved, and slower to open up. If you meet someone quiet and thoughtful, and you start speaking loudly and rapidly, they may feel overwhelmed. If you meet someone full of enthusiasm and respond in a flat tone, they might think you're disinterested. The trick is to subtly align your energy level with theirs. If they're calm, slow down your pace, lower your tone, and ask reflective questions. If they're lively, match their excitement, show animated reactions, and keep the rhythm light. But reading people goes deeper than energy. It's about observing small cues. Watch their body language. Are they leaning in, making eye contact, nodding? That means they're engaged. Are their arms crossed, eyes darting, or responses short? That might signal discomfort or disinterest. These clues tell you when to shift topics, change tone, or wrap things up gracefully. The goal is not to analyze every move but to feel the flow of connection. Listening, truly listening, is your greatest advantage here. Many people listen just to reply, waiting for their turn to speak. But if you listen to understand, you'll notice what excites or matters to the other person. Maybe their tone lifts when they talk about travel, or they light up when they mention their dog, or they sigh when they talk about work. Those emotional cues are invitations, open doors you can walk through. You can say, "You sound really passionate about that trip." Or, "It seems like work has been a bit rough lately." When you reflect people's emotions back to them, you build instant trust. They feel seen. Another subtle but powerful tool is mirroring. It's the art of gently reflecting the other person's gestures, expressions, or posture, without copying them like a mime. If they lean forward, you might do the same after a few moments. If they smile softly, return it naturally. Humans are wired to feel more comfortable with people who subtly mirror them. It signals empathy and safety. It's one of those silent skills that can make even short conversations feel deeply pleasant. And then there's adapting to personality. Some people love details. They'll tell long stories and enjoy sharing experiences. Others prefer concise, factual talk. With detailed storytellers, let them paint the picture. Ask open-ended questions like, "What happened next?" Or, "How did you feel when that happened?" For more straightforward people, keep your questions short and focused. "What do you think about that?" Or, "Did it work out?" Flexibility is what makes your conversations feel effortless. You'll also meet different moods. Some people are upbeat, others serious, some even slightly irritated or tired. Don't try to force cheerfulness onto someone who's clearly drained. Instead, lower your emotional intensity, offer empathy, and give them space. For instance, "Sounds like it's been a long day for you," can be more effective than pretending everything's great. People appreciate sensitivity far more than blind positivity. A crucial part of adapting is knowing when to end gracefully. Not every small talk has to go on forever. If you sense the energy dropping, or the person glancing around, that's your cue to close politely. You can say, "It was great chatting with you, I'll let you get back to it." Or, "I've really enjoyed this talk, maybe we'll continue later." Ending on a high note keeps your image positive and leaves the door open for future interactions. Reading people isn't about overthinking, it's about being present. The more you practice, the more intuitive it becomes. You'll start to feel the rhythm of each conversation as naturally as dancing, knowing when to lead, when to follow, and when to step back. When you master this skill, something incredible happens. Small talk stops feeling small. It becomes connection. You start to realize that beneath every quick chat at a cafe or in a hallway, there's a living, breathing story waiting to be heard, and you have the power to bring it out simply by tuning in. Because in the end, the best conversations aren't about perfect words. They're about perfect awareness, the quiet art of noticing, responding, and flowing with the human being in front of you. At some point, every great conversationalist learns that small talk is not the destination, it's the bridge. It's the gentle path that leads from polite exchanges to genuine connection. The real magic happens when a surface-level chat, about the weather, a new cafe, or weekend plans, suddenly deepens into something that matters. When you and the other person both feel that spark of real understanding. That's when small talk transforms into something powerful, meaningful conversation. But how do you cross that bridge? It begins with curiosity, not forced or artificial, but genuine interest. When someone mentions they went hiking last weekend, don't just say, "That's cool." Ask, "Oh, nice. Where did you go?" Or, "Do you hike often?" The goal isn't to interrogate, it's to invite storytelling. People naturally open up when they feel someone truly cares about what they're saying. And once they start sharing experiences, emotions often follow. Those emotions are the heartbeat of meaningful conversation. Here's the secret: every small topic has a doorway to something deeper. Talking about the weather? It can lead to travel dreams or favorite seasons from childhood. Discussing work? You can ask, "What do you like most about what you do?" Mentioning a book or movie? Try, "Did it change how you see things?" The moment a conversation touches feelings or values, it becomes real. And real conversations create real bonds. The next key is vulnerability, in small doses. You don't have to share your deepest fears or life story. But revealing a little about yourself, your opinions, small struggles, or moments of humor, signals trust. For example, if someone says they hate networking events, you can smile and say, "Same here, I always feel awkward at first." That small confession invites honesty and makes you more relatable. Vulnerability, when offered sincerely, builds connection faster than flawless confidence ever could. Of course, not every small talk should turn deep. Reading the situation matters. Some settings, like a quick chat at the coffee machine, might not be the place for emotional discussions. But when the vibe feels right, when there's mutual engagement, you can gently steer things toward authenticity. A simple phrase like, "That's interesting, I've never thought of it that way," or, "That reminds me of something similar that happened to me," keeps the flow natural and bridges the gap between casual and meaningful. Listening becomes even more vital at this stage. When people share something personal, they're giving you a gift, a glimpse into who they are. Don't rush to respond or offer advice right away. Let them speak. Sometimes, silence filled with attention is more powerful than words. Nodding, maintaining gentle eye contact, and showing empathy through your expression says, "I hear you. I get it." That emotional validation makes people feel safe and respected, and that's where trust grows. But perhaps the most beautiful part of meaningful conversation is reciprocity. It's not one person talking and another listening endlessly. It's a rhythm, sharing and receiving, opening up and reflecting back. If they tell you about their favorite memory from childhood, you might share one of your own. If they talk about a challenge, you can offer empathy and perhaps a story that relates. This exchange builds balance, and balance builds connection. Remember though, depth doesn't always mean seriousness. Some of the most meaningful moments come from laughter, from sharing joy, humor, and humanity. Joking about everyday mishaps, laughing at yourself, or finding common absurdities in life can create bonds just as strong as serious talks. What makes a conversation meaningful isn't how heavy it is, it's how real it feels. And here's something powerful to keep in mind. The conversations that change us often start as small talk. The person who becomes a lifelong friend, mentor, or even a partner, might begin as a stranger you casually greeted at a bus stop or workplace lunch. The doorway to life's greatest relationships often opens with just a few simple words like, "Hey, how's it going?" Or, "That's a great shirt, where did you get it?" Every time you engage in small talk, you're planting seeds. Most won't grow, but some will bloom into something extraordinary. So next time you find yourself chatting with someone new, don't underestimate the moment. That small conversation might just be the beginning of something big. Approach it with openness, curiosity, and authenticity, and let it unfold naturally. Because when you treat small talk not as a task but as an opportunity to see, to feel, to connect, it stops being small altogether. It becomes one of the most human things we can do: bridge the gap between strangers and turn fleeting words into lasting understanding. By now you've learned the principles: listening, curiosity, reading people, handling awkwardness, turning light chatter into deeper connection. But theory alone isn't enough, you need to practice. Small talk, like any skill, only becomes natural when you use it in real life. The more you do it, the smoother, quicker, and more confident you become. Think of it like learning to play an instrument. At first, your fingers stumble, but with time, your rhythm flows. So, where do you start? Everywhere. Every day offers tiny chances to sharpen your social fluency. Say hello to your barista. Compliment the cashier. Ask your coworker how their weekend was, and actually listen to the answer. You don't need a stage or a networking event. The grocery store, the elevator, the bus stop, these are your practice fields. Each interaction might last only 30 seconds, but it trains your brain to relax, engage, and respond naturally. Here's a key rule: start small, stay consistent. Don't pressure yourself to have long conversations. Begin with short, friendly exchanges. Over time, you'll notice your comfort zone expanding. That initial nervousness, the one that used to make your heart race before speaking, begins to fade. Confidence doesn't come from reading about small talk. It comes from surviving it, again and again, until it feels easy. One powerful method is setting micro goals. For instance, tell yourself, today I'll start 3 small conversations. Or I'll compliment one person genuinely. These small challenges keep you focused and make the process feel like a game. At the end of the day, reflect, how did it go? What felt natural? What felt forced? Each reflection helps you understand your social rhythm a bit more. Remember, you don't have to be perfect. You'll still have moments that feel clumsy. You'll forget someone's name, say something odd, or face a blank stare. It happens to everyone. The goal isn't to avoid awkwardness, but to handle it gracefully. Smile, shrug it off, move on. Most people forget awkward moments faster than you think. They're too busy thinking about their own words, their own worries. Another great way to practice is to find safe spaces, familiar environments where you can experiment socially without fear of judgment. It could be a local club, a language exchange group, or even a class where everyone's learning something new. These shared contexts naturally spark conversation. Talking about a shared interest makes it easier to connect. How long have you been coming here? Or, what got you into this hobby? Questions like these feel organic and open doors naturally. Don't underestimate the power of repetition. The more you interact, the more patterns you'll notice. You'll begin to see that most conversations follow similar rhythms: greetings, small talk, emotional connection, and closure. Once you understand that structure, you can flow through it effortlessly. You'll recognize when to stay light, when to go deeper, and when to gracefully exit. Here's another powerful exercise: practice social mirroring in your daily life. Observe how friendly people around you start and maintain conversations. Notice their tone, their pauses, their gestures. Then, try to mirror that energy in your own style. You'll start to internalize the rhythm of natural social flow, and soon, it won't feel like effort at all. If you want to level up, step out of your comfort zone. Go to an event where you know no one. It could be a community meetup, a workshop, or even a friend's party. Tell yourself, I'll just say hi to 3 people. That's it. You don't have to dominate the room. You just have to show up and speak. Each time you push your boundaries, they expand. And don't forget, digital small talk matters too. Chatting online, in comments, messages, or professional platforms, can also improve your fluency. The same principles apply: be genuine, curious, positive, and respectful. These interactions train your conversational instinct just like face-to-face ones. Over time, something shifts. What once felt like effort starts feeling like second nature. You'll find yourself starting conversations without overthinking, responding with ease, laughing naturally. People will begin to gravitate toward your energy, not because you're saying extraordinary things, but because you make them feel seen and comfortable. And that's the ultimate reward of practice, the transformation from, I hope I don't mess this up, to, I enjoy connecting. When you reach that point, small talk stops being a skill you force and becomes a habit you live. It becomes part of who you are, open, confident, kind, and effortlessly fluent in the universal language of connection. As Emma's journey unfolded, she realized that mastering small talk wasn't just about speaking English better. It was about connecting with people, understanding them, and being understood. It was about turning fleeting moments into meaningful interactions, bridging gaps between strangers, and creating a sense of belonging wherever she went. By now, she could confidently greet the barista, join conversations at the office, and even navigate awkward silences with poise. But the most important lesson wasn't a technique or a phrase, it was a mindset. She understood that small talk is the first step on a continuum of human connection. It starts with simple greetings, compliments, or observations. It grows through listening, curiosity, and empathy. It deepens when you share a little about yourself and invite others to share as well. Each conversation, no matter how brief, is a seed planted. Some will bloom into friendships, mentorships, or even life-changing opportunities. Emma also learned that imperfection is part of the process. Awkward pauses, mispronounced words, forgotten names, they are inevitable. What matters is how you recover. A smile, a light joke, or a graceful pivot can turn potential embarrassment into charm. People remember your authenticity far more than they remember minor mistakes. Mastering small talk isn't about eliminating errors, it's about being human, confident, and present in the moment. Over weeks, Emma practiced relentlessly. She took every opportunity, in the office, at cafes, on public transport, to start and sustain conversations. She observed others, adapted to their energy, and learned to read subtle social cues. She discovered that humor, curiosity, and empathy are more powerful than flawless grammar. She found that listening deeply, acknowledging feelings, and asking thoughtful questions transformed simple exchanges into memorable interactions. By embracing these principles, Emma began to notice subtle changes in her life. People smiled more when they saw her. Colleagues invited her into projects and casual gatherings. Strangers responded warmly to her small gestures of friendliness. And most importantly, she felt more confident and at ease in her own skin. Small talk had become more than practice. It had become a tool for life, a bridge to meaningful human connection. The final truth Emma embraced is that small talk is not an end in itself. It's a gateway. A way to understand others, to be understood, and to discover shared humanity in everyday moments. Each greeting, question, and shared laugh is part of a larger story, one of trust, curiosity, and empathy. Mastering it doesn't make you perfect, but it makes you present, open, and connected. As she walked through the streets of London one sunny afternoon, coffee in hand and a small smile on her lips, Emma reflected on how far she had come. The shy newcomer who once dreaded greetings and awkward silences now navigated social spaces with warmth and ease. Every conversation, no matter how brief, had taught her something valuable, about language, about people, and about herself. And she knew this wasn't the end. Each new day offered fresh opportunities to connect, laugh, and share. Each hello was a chance to plant another seed. Through small talk, Emma had unlocked something far greater than language proficiency. She had unlocked the power of connection, the simple, beautiful, human ability to reach out, to be seen, and to see others. The journey of mastering small talk is lifelong. But once you embrace it, every conversation, no matter how small, becomes meaningful. And that, ultimately, is the true reward, turning fleeting words into lasting connection, one conversation at a time.